Old School Lane Casual Chats is brought to you by oldsschoollane.blogspot.com and is associated with manicexpression.com, thecomicbookcast.com, the reopened Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, Florida Facebook page, and the PlaysStation YouTube channel. Welcome to a brand new episode of Casual Chats. As usual, I'm Patricia.
And I'm Patty. No, I'm Kevin. I'll be Kevin for today.
Yeah, you'll be Kevin for today. And so today we are going back to a topic that we haven't discussed in a while. Another video game topic. And in this case, we're talking about probably one of the most iconic franchises of all time, especially one in the 90s. And
Toe Jam and Earl?
Yes, Kevin. Toe Jam and Earl. No. We are talking about none other than the blue anthropomorphic hedgehog himself, Sonic. And joining us today is someone you probably know from the Let's Play channel PlaysStation, as well as Comic Book Cast, and also in our Christmas podcast last December. We have indexsonic himself, Tom. Welcome back, Tom.
Hi guys, thank you for having me on.
Alright, so, Sonic the Hedgehog, created by Yuji Naka back in 1991 on the Sega Genesis, or in Tom's case, the Mega Drive.
The correct name, thank you.
Sonic the Hedgehog was trying to catch in on the popularity of Mario with the Nintendo Entertainment System, and around that time, the Super Nintendo would come out, and it would kind of start off the quote-unquote 16-bit wars between Sega and Nintendo. Right before we get into the whole history and all that good stuff, why don't we talk about how we first got introduced to Sonic? So, Tom, since you're our guest, why don't you start?
Well, I first got introduced to Sonic back around pretty much when he first started with, funny enough, it was that my parents bought me a Sonic toy sort of thing, like a little doll. I wouldn't say doll, but soft toy. And then the first time I actually noticed some stuff, I picked up the comics back during the 90s, and before that, I played the very first video game of Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Master System first time round, and then I played his main game on the on the Mega Drive, and that's how I got to know Sonic. And then basically I just kept going and kept playing all the stuff and everything like that from up to now.
All right, how about you, Kev?
I got it through the first video game. In fact, I actually still own the first video game with the tip where it hangs. The clip tag on top. I still have the case and everything, and I just fell in love with the video game. I've loved Sonic. He's one of my favorite iconic video game characters. I used to watch both Saturday morning cartoon Sonic AM and the one on Sonic Adventures. I know Sonic Adventures is like the Super Mario Brothers Super Show of like the Sonic genre. It's not really greatly written, but I remember that. And like when I watched it recently, I just, not to, because I know we'll talk about it. It doesn't hold up at all. But it's great nostalgia anyway, because it was in the 90s. I too like the Archie comics. I had a Sonic doll. I actually have the newer Sonic toy. Roger Craig Smith is like my favorite Sonic, and I loved his cameo appearance in Wreck-It Ralph. And ever since then, I just became a huge Sonic fan. I used to play that game all the time after school. It used to be like a great stress reliever,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I first got introduced to Sonic I had the Sega Genesis as a hand-me-down from my cousin, and one of the games that came with it was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And I played that, and I immediately fell in love with it. I was used to, like games like Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World, in which, you go through platforms and you get power-ups and stuff like that, but when I played Sonic, it was like something completely different, and going super fast and having the amazing levels and the amazing music that played along with it, and it was so incredible. I remember, back in school, Kevin can actually account with this, since we both went to the same school together when we were, 10. There used to be, conversations in the lunchroom about who was better, Sonic or Mario.
I think we could all answer that question.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that, and I'm not just saying it because we're doing a podcast.
It's weird how Sonic came incarnated. It's I remember, because I watched a lot of stuff about the development of Sonic and stuff like that. I remember they said that one of the inspiration was for Sonic was the first level in Mario 1-1, and when Yuji Naka played it, he just holded down the B button and just keep running and running and running and running, and he just kept playing that over and over and over and over again. And he thought, what, there'd be an interesting little concept if I can get a platform character but who can go really fast. And it's kind of ironic that Mario is one of the influences of Sonic the Hedgehog in some senses. Very weird.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. But then again, Mario was kind of like Shigeru Miyamoto's answer to not acquiring the Popeye franchise to make the Popeye arcade game.
Yeah, it's just to do with that. If it wasn't for Miyamoto with Mario, the video game franchise wouldn't be as popular as it is today, because that sort of brought it back from the brink of the whole video game crash of the whole E.T. disaster.
Yeah, the video game crash of 1983, for our younger viewers who don't know. There was an oversaturation of really mediocre, awful, crappy games that came out for the Atari 2600. And there was just a whole bunch of consoles that were coming out left and right that try to cash in on the popularity of the Atari 2600 and the Magnavox Odyssey. There was the Commodore 64. It's very easy. I mean, there's not a lot of video games that came out. Today you have the Wii, the Wii U, 3DS, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, Xbox One. But back then, there was just, so many consoles that came out that it was just mind-blowing. And too much of that, and not enough quality towards the the consoles and the games, it pretty much just went overboard, and people were just getting sick of it.
Yeah, it just didn't help. That didn't help. And then Mario came about and sort of made a scene. And this is when Sega stepped in, because they saw how much money Nintendo were making with this product, with Mario, and they wanted a piece of that thing, and they made a character very similar to Mario, which is called Alex Kidd. But unfortunately, Alex Kidd wasn't really that popular, and I think he only had about three or so games.
Yeah, about three games.
And so, to combat this, three people came together, one of them Yuji Naka and two other people, to create this Sonic the Hedgehog character. And sure enough, he was created, and he came across very popular, and then they brought him over to the Western audience, when the Western people designed him into his classic form as we know today, what his classic look like, which the Japanese developers didn't like at first, but once they realised that it was the right choice, they were happy with it.
Yeah, for those
overnight was a smash hit.
Yeah, for those who don't know about the main core of Sonic's design and inspiration, think of it this way: that Sonic's shoes alone were the inspiration of Michael Jackson's boots, which, you know, he was really popular around the 80s and 90s. And Sonic's personality, believe it or not, was inspired by former President Bill Clinton.
Very, very weird design choice. When you look back on it, you're like, wait, what?
Now, I can understand, you know, having Bill Clinton as one of the lyrics for Animaniacs, that kind of makes sense, but yeah, I mean, when you consider that, you know, later on Sonic would have Amy Rose and then that whole relationship with the princess in Sonic 06, it kind of makes sort of ironic sense, but we'll get to those later.
Well, Sonic used to have a female love interest in the original game concept, Madonna.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, which didn't go down too well, and it was supposed to be a part of the rock and roll band as well, which that got scrapped, and then the Madonna thing got scrapped, and it just ended up Sonic fighting one bad guy out the original design. Because originally there was like 5 different designs of different bad guys, and the only one that stayed around was Eggman.
Yeah, Eggman was supposed to be a protagonist for a video game franchise that, you know, tried to cash in on the whole Mario franchise, and they liked the character so much that they decided to design, Robotnik instead of the good guy. They made him into a bad guy.
Yeah, before that, I think he was a sleeping man sort of thing. I think originally he was supposed to be the main character.
Yeah, he was supposed to. Yeah, he was wearing pajamas in his original design.
Yeah, he was wearing pajamas, and there was also during the stages when they finally decided to make that anthropomorphic animal. Sonic was a rabbit. He was a armadillo, which, funny enough, later became Mighty the Armadillo in later games. And sure enough, the Hedgehog was on the list, and the Hedgehog got the win over the 3 designs. Yeah,
and that would kind of later on become like a phase in the 90s in which they try to make like rodent-like creatures into main characters. Like you had Aero Acrobat, Awesome Possum.
Oh, Awesome Possum.
Yeah, I know.
Machino's butt.
Yes, Awesome Possum kicks Dr. Machino's butt. That's got to be probably, in my opinion, the worst title in anything ever.
Bugsy.
Well, yeah, Bubsy, but still, come on, Awesome Possum. I mean, that is so awesome. Yeah. Literally.
So cheesy.
Yeah, I know.
It's cheesy. And because of this, Sonic was overnight hit with Western and Eastern audiences.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they really immediately fell in love with it because it was, I mean, you have to consider that, the NES, it had like at least maybe about 5 years ahead of the video game competition in which there were no other games like it. I mean, sure, the Atari was still around, but it was kind of, waning down its popularity because it still was relying on that kind of old school archaic graphics and stuff like that, which, the NES tried to emulate some new graphics and some new designs and some new ideas that the Atari just never could keep up, and they didn't have the technology for it, and they tried hard, but in the end they just couldn't keep up with Sega or Nintendo.
Yeah, because those were the 2 big powerhouses at the time, and the problem was Atari was sort of pushed to the wayside because of it, sadly. But again, the first Sonic game came out. It had great reception. I remember the commercial. It was so clever. It was underhanded, but it was very clever for the time. It's that they had these 2 video game consoles. They went on tour and did this as well. Had these 2 video game consoles, the Mega Drive and the NES. They hooked them up to television. They basically had both of them playing at the same time, and they basically tried to have a look at each other. And they had their prices next to them, and the Mega Drive was the cheaper console, and they just had them playing on screens, and which one was more appealing, and people draw more towards the Mega Drive than they did to towards the SNES.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I'm sure we can start discussing about the very first game, Sonic the Hedgehog, for the Sega Genesis, Mega Drive, whatever. Okay, so, yeah, very simple plot because, in the 90s, you didn't have to worry about plots. It was all about the gameplay. So, very simple. You have Dr. Robotnik coming along, and he was changing all the cute little fuzzy furry animals in the forest into robotic creatures, and basically the whole point of it was that Sonic was supposed to rescue them and then take down Dr. Robotnik right before he caused some more trouble. And then along the way, this was also where we were first introduced to the Chaos Emeralds. So just collect 6 of them in the bonus stages and you can be able to use them so you can take down the final boss. And how do you think it holds up today?
The game holds up very well. The game has been remade, re-released countless times, and it's sold well. That's the thing. The game's still talked about. It's still regarded as one of the best Sonic games today, and regarded as one of the best 2D platformers of all. One of the best 2D platformers of that era and of all time. Again, very simple. Was no storyline unless you read the manual of those things. Those were the days when you had to read the manual for the story. And yeah, it just had some very good interest in it. And the thing I like about it, it was quick paced, but a lot of modern Sonic fans don't seem to forget that there was platforming in the original Sonic games, which kind of annoyed me a little bit. But beggars can't be choosers here. And sure enough, the game did well, and we got a Sonic the Hedgehog game, and everyone I know seemed to enjoy it.
Okay. How about you, Kevin? Do you think that the original Sonic holds up?
I think it does for nostalgia reasons. I mean, I understand the Sonic games over the years, over the months, have advanced greatly. Whether you like the games or not, it's in question. But I think if you really look at it from a nostalgic, and also if you're really looking to play a good game, because it's one of the few games. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I remember having a great deal of fun playing it, and just being able to press the button, hold, and speed, and going through all the different challenges and whatnot. For the first Sonic, I mean, it's just a great game to play. I mean, if you want to look back at your childhood, but I look at it as a special way because as much as I love Sonic, so I sound biased because I'm a big fan of him, so I like the game a lot. It's not like I'm saying, well, I like this because I grew up as a kid and whatever. I have a fondness for Sonic, so for me, I think it holds up a lot because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing it, so I enjoyed playing it even when I couldn't beat a level. I enjoyed it, so I think it does, and it's very iconic too in its own right. So I think it definitely holds up.
Yeah, I think so too. I definitely agree that it definitely still holds up to this day, especially if you want to talk about some of the best in the 2D side-scrolling platformers. I guess the first Sonic game, the reason why it does have platforming, because it was trying to be kind of like a copycat towards Mario, and so it tried to follow up with the Mario platforming as well. But because it relies a lot on speed, when you do platforming, it kind of slows down the pace, which is why I don't think that they did this in other installments. And also, the ways that you were able to get the Chaos Emeralds when you reach over to the bonus stages. I don't know about you guys, maybe it's just me, but I get a little disoriented at times when I try to, hit towards the main disappearing diamond pieces so I can be able to get the Chaos Emerald, and when it kind of flips all around, I feel a little dizzy at times and I can't really concentrate. Have you guys felt that way?
Not really. I just felt a little bit frustrated playing the levels, but they're not the worst special stages there have ever been in the Sonic franchise. And to be fair, this is the first Sonic game that had the special stages, so I can't really complain. But they do make a return in Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 1.
Right.
In some sort of form and fashion. They're good enough. They're a little bit frustrated, but they reused this theme again in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in the bonus stages when you were going to the little star post portals, and you would sometimes you would end up in these different bonus games, and one of them was this style of Sonic the Hedgehog 1 special stages, but instead with a slot machine, which I don't mind. It is enjoyable if it's done right.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe I get disoriented easily, but maybe it's just me. Anyway, so what were your favorite zones, and what were your favorite songs in the original Sonic the Hedgehog?
Yeah, that's a very good one. You want to go first?
You go first, Patty.
Okay. My favorites, that's really hard, but I'll have to say that I like Green Hill Zone. Of course, it's iconic. Marble Zone, I like the music, and it's kind of fun at times, but, it definitely relies a lot on the platforming. Spring Yard Zone is also a lot of fun. Labyrinth Zone is pretty good. I like the music on that. Starlight, that's also pretty good. Scrap Brain, I love the music from Scrap Brain. Definitely, it really feels really epic when you get really close to the final level where you have to beat Robotnik. So, I guess I would have to say Green Hill, Marble, and Scrap Brain.
Okay.
Uh,
For me, the levels in this game are reasonably memorable, but the thing is that a lot of the levels are not to remember out for some of the other Sonic games, but again, like the most iconic one, Green Home, so everyone seems to love that level for obvious reasons, and it's such a fun level to go through every single time. It's just when you play some of the other levels, like Marble Gardens, for instance, is another one which was frustrated to people, but so you're saying like Starlight Zone, Scratch Brain Zone's fun, but it is very, very booby trapped. But the main one that everyone seems to remember, apart from Green Hill Zone, is Labyrinth Zone.
Oh yeah, Labyrinth Zone's really good as well.
Everyone remember that because of one reason. Not just because of its artistical look and basically it has a very good level thing. It's because of the one thing what happens when you do end up in the water for too long: the drowning sound effects.
Oh yes, we'll get to that when we get to Sonic 2.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the thing. It's Labyrinth Zone in Sonic 1. That was the most frustrating one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the Crooked Ruins in the second one you're thinking of.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but Labyrinth Zone in the first game. Ugh.
Yeah.
That was evil.
How about you, Kevin? What levels are some of your favorites?
they're all my favorites. I can't pick one. It's a really hard one. I'll be here all day trying to pick one. It's hard because I love the music to it. So it's really hard for me to pick a personal favorite. Plus, I haven't played the game in a really long time, so I would have to play it all again to hear all the music.
Yeah, I understand. Alright, well, now that we got that out of the way, let's go over to Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which came out 1 year after the first one, and for many people's opinion, this is by far their favorite 2D side-scrolling Sonic game. And I can definitely see why. There's definitely a lot of little tweaks that they did that changed it from the original. First and foremost, and this is probably the most crucial thing in the entire franchise, they actually introduced the spin dash in this game. When you think of Sonic, there's no way that you cannot think of the spin dash. And obviously, other things include that, the soundtrack was also just as great. There was more levels. And also they introduced a little sidekick for Sonic, Tails.
Aww, Patty, you used to be nicknamed Tails in school.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, you were.
I don't remember.
They said you were very perky.
Perky. Yeah, Sonic 2 did do a lot of stuff right. It sold really well. One of the main reasons it sold so well was because it was bundled in with the Sega Mega Drive. I think that's one of the reasons why it sold so well and so many people had so many copies of the game.
Yeah, that would be me. Sorry. Yeah, I liked copies of 2.
Yeah, it was such a good, enjoyable game, and it upgraded so much stuff. You had Emerald Codes, and one of the most memorable for that was Chemical Plants. And I'm so glad that got to represent Sonic's 20-year anniversary, Sonic Generations for Sonic 2, and it just went. It improved a lot of stuff. The game wasn't as unfair as the first one was. It felt like it had a good balance towards it. Like, it felt like it has a good challenge, but you don't feel like you were not being biased. I think the only gripe I got with it, if you got all the Chaos Emeralds and you jump up in the air, once if you got over 50 rings, you automatically turn into Super Sonic. And then if you go to, Mystic Cave, you fall down the pit, you're going to be down there for a long, long time as Super Sonic. I think everyone knows which pit I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I think that was everyone's nightmare.
Also, not to mention that, when you reach Chemical Plant Zone and when you reach Aquatic Ruin Zone and you had to deal with the water levels, especially Aquatic Ruin Zone, in which, if you don't time yourself right, you're going to spend a whole lot of time underwater, and,
You told me in school, Patty, that you used to spend, a lot of time in the water when we were playing the game, and you were like, that used to frustrate the hell out of you.
Well, like we said before, that in order for you to time yourself right, you need to be able to be at the right speed, you have to have the right height, and you have to jump perfectly in order for you to not be in the water. Because if you're in the water, you can't jump yourself back up. You have to run through the entire thing, and then hopefully you can be able to find one of those jumping spring pads. That way you can be able to get yourself back up and prevent yourself from dying.
Yeah.
Which
I never had any trouble with Labyrinth Zone, to be honest. No, with Aquatic Ruins. Never had any problem with that. You're probably the first person I've heard that had a problem with that level.
Well, that was when I was first playing it. Other than that, I got the hang of it.
Yeah, and then that level had an interesting boss with the two pillars, with the sledgehammer and everything else.
Yeah, and every time that, Dr. Robotnik would hit the pillars, there would be an arrow coming out. Kind of reminds me of one of those, like, secret rooms in which you had the booby traps and the little, there would be, like, holes in the walls and they'll be shooting the arrows. I guess that's kind of like that, but I'm not sure, but maybe.
It has some very interesting level designs in the thing, and the badniks were very good. And also, that's where for Adventure Sonic the Hedgehog Grounder's design came from. This game, mainly his main design. If you look at it, with the drill bots. I know they were in the first game, but you could tell that Grounder's design was based off the second version of the drill bot in this Sonic 2 game.
Mm-hmm. And also another thing that made it a huge improvement over the first one is that there wasn't as much platforming as opposed to like in the first one, in which there was a ton of platforming. You just mostly like ran around, and there were multiple paths that you can go through in order for you to complete the game. And the way that you collected the Chaos Emeralds was a lot different.
This where the bonus stages, which is frequently used, is like the tube stages, when you're running down a tube. You have to collect enough rings before you can reach the goal post or the finish line, whatever you want to call it. And you had the bombs on it, you would lose rings. But this is the one style special stages that seem to always come back in most of the Sonic games. Weirdly,
yeah, definitely.
Which I don't mind, but it's kind of been overused and overdone now.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. Also, not to mention that Sonic the Hedgehog 2 also was the first in the series that gave us two-player mode. You can play as either Sonic or Tails, and you can choose one of the 4 levels, and you can race as fast as you can. That way you can make it to the finish line.
Absolutely, yeah.
For a lot of people, maybe they won't see too much of a big deal of it. I mean, it's kind of bare bones, looking back on it. But back then, playing this quickly, I mean, it was, like, really milestone groundbreaking, because in any of the Mario games, you could not play as simultaneously 2 players at once.
Yeah, and if you knew how to do it, Tails could fly. You can only fly in 2-player mode, and if you can get in the fly, player 1 can jump onto him, and he can carry you for quite a bit of distance across the level. Mm-hmm. Which was always fun when you have a second player going around. Like, I don't like this bit. Okay, let's just fly over it. Whee!
Yeah, definitely. And of course, we cannot mention Sonic the Hedgehog 2 without talking about the prototypes. The prototypes of Sonic the Hedgehog that came out around the early 90s, right before they released the game, and they had a few other zones that were not released in the final version.
Yeah, this what caused a lot of, I would say, fan-made hackers to ROM hackers and stuff like that to start getting to hacking, because when I speak to a load of them, it was because of Hidden Palace Zone was the main one. People were so curious about it, and that's what I hear. Yeah, they had a lot of different versions to it.
Yeah, and apparently there were like 2 different prototypes that came out. One of the prototypes, believe it or not, one of the prototypes of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 actually made it in Nick Arcade.
Yeah, that little cartridge that they used on that thing, that was the retail version of the cartridge, and I think someone, there's a funny story about that, someone let those cartridges on that scene, because there was more than one. Someone stole one of them.
Yes, someone did steal one of the prototype cartridges.
That was Patty.
How?
I can imagine her just like Metal Gear Solid style, hiding in a box or like that. Just grabs it, just wanders off laughing to herself.
Yeah. I went over and I stole one of the prototypes when I was 6 years old or 7. And
well, I'm sure you were wearing diapers back then, so they didn't think much that you could steal any stuff. So.
Wait, what?
Don't ask, Tom. Don't ask.
Okay, I'm not going to ask, but yeah, once I got asked, and then years and years later, they popped up on Sonic Retro, one place as I know, and online for years and years before that, before the whole emulator phase of craze came in onto the internet. But yeah, it just a marvelous thing that people got to see these things.
Yeah, not only for Hidden Palace Zone, but there was also Wood Zone, and there were also a couple of cut levels that Yuji Naka mentioned that included Genocide City Zone, and there was some sort of like Desert Zone, and there were a couple of other zones that were supposed to be in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but they were cut due to time constraints. And apparently, nowadays you can actually play some of these levels thanks to some sort of iPhone app version of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 that they actually put it in.
Yeah, that was what's his name? Chris White's version of the guy that remastered Sonic CD, and he's done it for Sonic 1 and 2 now. I think he's currently working on Sonic 3 and Knuckles at the moment.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Because I know I saw that on game trailers in which they were trying to, prove if it was fact or fiction about Hidden Palace Zone. Because if you play the final version of it and you were able to enter a bunch of cheat codes, Hidden Palace Zone is virtually unplayable. Like, you would immediately fall down, like, in the first few seconds, and then you would be automatically dead.
Yeah, that what happened most of the time when you did that, and it was a little bit annoying, but then years later, ROM hackers re-put it back in, and they rediscovered that there was a hold level, it had water features, you could run across it, it had badniks that was not even in the final version of the game.
There were some badniks that kind of look like dinosaurs.
Yeah, the dinosaur-looking one, and a new, like, underwater fish type of thing.
Yeah.
As well, which was quite interesting.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, with Sonic the Hedgehog 2, many people consider this one to be the best out of the original 2D Sonic games. Would you guys agree, or do you disagree?
Personally for me, why this is a lot of people's favourites, the next installment in the franchise is arguably my favourite one. That was Sonic 3. That was my favourite one, and I would arguably say I will fight over bittersweet and basically say that's my favourite Sonic 3. But I can perfectly respect people for liking Sonic 2 because it is a damn good game.
How about you, Kevin?
I agree full-heartedly with what he said. I was going to say the exact same thing.
Moving on, let's head over to Sonic CD, the very first in the Sega CD, which not a lot of people back then owned because it was too expensive, and a lot of the games that came out for the Sega CD were very experimental, very full-motion video. It was kind of like during the time in which, cartridges were kind of becoming less and less popular due to holding at least up to 16 to 32 megabytes, and CDs can be able to hold, like, a whole bunch more space, like at least up to over 600, so they were trying their best to experiment with it. The first one in America that did the CD add-ons was the TurboGrafx 16, which also came out around the same time as the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, but that was completely overshadowed. There were a couple of good games for the Sega CD that came out, one of them being Snatcher, and another one, of course, being Sonic CD. It definitely kind of feels like Sonic 2 in a way, because some of the levels kind of look similar, but the main difference is that you had the past and future thing, in which you can go back to the past, and you can go into the future, and the future kind of shows like this post-apocalyptic future in which Dr. Robotnik kind of took over, and you're trying to correct everything, you're trying to collect these objects so you can be able to fight off Robotnik, and as well, you get to collect the Chaos Emeralds, and this is actually the first time in which we were introduced to two new characters, Amy Rose and Metal Sonic.
Yeah. Well, the thing was with Sonic CD was the fact that it was in development at the same time as Sonic 2, and I think they wanted to get this game out before Sonic 2 in Japan, but unfortunately that wasn't the case because Sonic 2 came out beforehand, and, push came and stuff, Sonic, it came out afterward. Again, CD, like you said, here in the UK it was called the Mega CD.
Right.
But the Sega CD was a console which I would like to regard as way too ahead of its time.
I agree.
It had a lot of controversy behind it as well. With it was actually one of the reasons why there was a game video rating system back in the day. Well, a video rating system got started was because of the whole Night Trap controversy.
Really? I thought it was because of Mortal Kombat.
Well, it didn't help. That's the thing. It's like I did a documentary on video games, controversial video game, and it didn't help. It didn't help it. That was the thing. And there was a list of games, and I think Mortal Kombat was the final straw that broke the camel's back, and they said, nope, that's it. No, there's got to be a rating system.
Right.
But yeah, Night Trap, Lethal Weapon, Doom was another one that caused controversy, and Mortal Kombat was seen to be the one that broke the camel's back on the whole situation.
Doom caused a lot of controversy, especially what happened around Columbine.
Oh yeah, Columbine, in which, the people who were involved in the Columbine murders, they were talking about how, their favorite game was Doom. That was kind of like, the time in which parents, they would constantly argue about, video games were harmful for your kids and you should never play them. Kind of like when Jack Thompson was kind of like becoming like the main guy behind the whole discussion about video games cause violence, which there has never been any proof of that. I mean, violence has been around since the beginning of time, and I don't think video games started it out, in my opinion.
Yeah, but again, we're going a whole different controversy with video games now, but I think the one thing that made the Sonic CD levels unique was that it had a very different artistic style from that classic era video game, and it introduced, like you said, two new characters, which are regarded as two of the most popular characters in the franchise, which is Metal Sonic and Amy Rose, and which are still characters still around today. And
make of that if you will.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. But again, they're two staple characters of the franchise. They're two of the most recognizable characters within the Sonic universe, and two of the oldest as well. And it was an interesting little thing. Some people didn't like the going back and forth between past, present, and future aspect of it, and a lot of people did not like special stages.
Oh yeah, I hated the special stages.
Yeah. It was interesting. The guy who created Amy Rose and Metal Sonic would later on go on to create Knights.
Oh yeah, Knights. That's kind of, I know about Knights. Yeah, that's one of the very underrated game series that came out of Sega.
I think it was I can't remember if it was Yuji Naka or the creator of Zelda who said if they wish they were the people who created Knights and created the concept and the gameplay for it. When you got those people saying that about your game, that's an achievement.
Yeah, that's really true. I mean, I really wish it would have caught on, but unfortunately, it's just as obscure as what Klonoa used to be.
They re-released a HD port of it back I think it was back a few years ago now.
I think so, yeah.
On the Xbox Live Arcade and also on the PlaysStation Network.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it's on Steam as well. I can't remember what's on my head.
Most likely, yeah.
It was a good little investment. Sonic CD did critically. A lot of critics will say critically, Sonic CD is the best game in the franchise, which I disagree with, my personal opinion. But a lot of critics regard it hard regard, but it did not sell well, was because the Sega CD didn't sell well.
Yeah, Sega CD, even still to this day, is one of the very few reasons you should even pick up a Sonic CD. And I'm sure that if you guys follow the PlaysStation channel, you already know that we did a Let's Play of it, and there were so many levels that made us so disoriented and dizzy, even just by looking at it. I mean, Wacky World Bench, anybody?
Oh god, that gave you a headache.
Didn't you like that one?
It was so dizzy. When Tristan was playing it on the channel, it made me so sick.
We're gonna be sad.
There was a lot of migraines and headaches that day.
Yeah, I don't know how the Japanese people do this. I mean, they can just look at things or they can experience something that I don't even know how they do it.
Well, not really. Look what happened to the Pokemon episode with Polygon.
Touche.
No, I have nothing. Everything you guys pretty much said was on the map.
Okay, Kevin. Alright, so I guess we can move on into Tom's favorite Sonic games, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles.
Whoop! So yeah, this game has the most history to do with this game. What I mean by that, for those who don't know, it's like this game had a lot of documented stuff about it. There was a lot of secrets about it. This game evolved, and even with the gameplay, basically the graphics were better, the sound was better. And again, speaking about the sound, there was this whole rumor sort of thing that Michael Jackson did music for Sonic 3, or he didn't. But I think he did, but they're keeping that hush hush because they want Sega never want to get in trouble with Michael Jackson's lawyers, even though he's dead now. But that's a completely different story.
Yeah,
So
apparently if you want to know all about that fiasco, Game Trailers did a video on it that you can check out on their Pop Fiction series, so go check that out.
But yeah, this game was also infamously famous because it introduced a fan favourite to the franchise, which was Knuckles the Echidna.
Yes.
And a pretty cool Sonic character, the Guardian of the Master Emerald, and lives on Angel Island. This story basically takes place after Sonic 2 when the Death Egg falls from the sky and it crash lands on Angel Island and sends Angel Island rocketing down to the planet Mobius, or as in Japan everyone knew it as Earth. And so Sonic and Tails go to investigate this island, and Sonic has all the Chaos Emeralds, but Knuckles managed to uppercut him and steal them, and they go on adventures across Angel Island, and the rest is history.
Yep, pretty much. And one of the very great things about Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles was that you can be able to play as Knuckles, and you can be able to play as Sonic and Tails, or you can play as Tails or Sonic separately. And if you had the add-on, which is like this little peripheral that had Sonic and Knuckles, you can put that in, and you can also play as Knuckles, and you can be able to play it in a completely new, levels, and get to see Knuckles' perspective. And also, if you want to pop in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, you can play Sonic the Hedgehog 2 as Knuckles.
Yeah, this game arguably has the best music, and also I would say I can remember most of out of all the Sonic games. This is the game I can remember most of the level with in this game. Like you had Angel Island Zone, you had Hydro City Zone, you had Launch Base, you had oh my god, there's just so many levels.
And not to mention Snowcap Zone.
Yeah, snow cap, that's ice cap.
Oh yeah, ice cap, right? Ice cap zone.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's such an amazing game, and it's just done. So Lava Reef, it's just such a well done game. And also this game actually, I think it was the first Sonic game they're trying to implement story modes into it.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it's done. It was just done so well. The gameplay. I can't really find a gripe about it. It was just done so well. And they fixed the supersonic bug, which was in the first one. Every time you jump, you turn into supersonic. In this game, you jump and you press A and B while you're in midair, you turn into supersonic.
Yeah, that was able to fix a lot of the minor tweaks and flaws in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which was also really good. And also, not to mention that I really liked, for the most part, every single zone and all the music. It was really, really great. And there's a lot more replayability than any of the classic Sonic games.
Again, it's just one of those games I can't really argue with, and it's been re-released over and over again. The only thing it has not got a HD report yet by the guy who did the HD report from Sonic CD, but I think he's working on it, like I said. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, he'd be crazy not to. How about you, Kev?
What was the question again?
Sonic 3, your opinion.
I never really played Sonic 3, so I can't really answer that.
Oh.
You never played Sonic 3?
No.
What?
I know. Actually, I was deprived one out of all the Sonics. I played Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, but I didn't get to play Sonic 3.
You sad man. Oof.
Yeah, no.
Well, you never, because, again, for those who don't know, these games got re-released in collections, like the first one was Sonic Jam, and so on, etc., with GameCube, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3. Seriously, you have not even picked one of those collection editions to play those games?
No.
Wow, my mind's just been blown.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Alright, well, while we leave Kevin to wallow in his sadness, I guess we'll move on to the next one, which I guess we can briefly talk about it, but not a lot of people have actually played this. I have not met a single person who had played it when it first came out. because in order for you to play this game, you need the 32X, which is, to be quite frank, it's a piece of shit. It is, Knuckles Chaotix, a spin-off series that focused on Knuckles the Echidna.
I played it once around a friend's house. It's a very different game. A very, very weird, different game. Had a different look, had a different feel. But, you know, it was okay. But again, it didn't sell well because no one on their right mind would buy their giant, just for mushroom growing out of the Mega Drive. Which is known as the 32X, apparently.
Yes, it is. And the 32X is awful. One of the worst peripherals of all time. And it's just a shame that, you know, a pretty competent game like Knuckles Chaotix, which, you know, was, I mean, it looked pretty cool, and, you know, it was really different, obviously, because, you know, you had other characters, you had Vector the Crocodile, Charmy Bee, and Espio the Chameleon. They were first introduced into the main core of the Sonic series, even though that technically, if you take a look at the promotional picture on Sonic and his band, Vector the Crocodile is featured on the picture. But as for the games, this is actually the first time in which we were introduced to them. And as a whole, I've never played it, but I am planning to really soon. But from what I've seen so far, it looks pretty interesting. How about you, Kev?
What was the question again?
About Knuckles Chaotix. Have you ever played it?
I played it.
You have played it? Okay, so let me get this straight. Whoa, stop.
You can't play Sonic 3.
Yeah, you have not played Sonic 3, but you played Knuckles Chaotix.
Well, I briefly played the Knuckles game, because, I mean, I like Knuckles, because he's more, like, of the badass. So, I mean, I don't remember, like, I haven't played these games in a long time. You guys have to forgive me. Like, I don't have the Sega Genesis at my disposal, so I can't play it. But I do, I mean, from what I remember by memory, you know, maybe I did play Sonic 3, I don't remember. I remember, like I said, I played Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 religiously, but I don't really remember all the games after that I played, because I had a lot of, you know, Sega Genesis games, Super Nintendo games, so, I just remember that, I liked it because it was like Knuckles is the badass, so I kind of liked that in a way. But I don't remember the games too much. I have to get like a refreshment course on that, you know? I mean, as much as I hate to traumatize and blow everybody's minds, I don't play that much video games anymore. But, I mean, I like the character of Sonic, if that, you know?
I understand. That's fine.
Yeah.
Alright, well, around this time, the Sonic series kind of went into a very weird direction. Obviously, the first thing I guess we can talk about are the two animated series that came out around when Sonic was huge. Obviously, Sonic the Hedgehog the cartoon, and Sonic Sat AM. So,
Oh boy.
yeah, we're gonna start off with the drug-induced, high, crazy Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, in which, believe it or not, kids, Sonic was voiced by Steve Urkel himself, Jaleel White.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adventure of Sonic the Hedgehog.
What?
Wow.
It's like I said before, the Super Mario Super Show of TV show for the Sonic. It was very, very corny, especially if you look at it now.
Yeah, Adventure of Sonic the Hedgehog was one of those sort of shows that people would say you had to be on an LSD when you made this, but it had its charm. But
If you were high.
Yeah, but I think the thing is that Adventure Sonic the Hedgehog was the alternative from the Sonic the Hedgehog Saturday AM show, which was taking itself a little bit more seriously, a little bit more darker. Adventure Sonic the Hedgehog was something that aimed for more the younger kids, you know?
Yeah.
Which, again, when I was a little kid, when I watched it, I thought, yeah, this was good. I think the only time when it took itself semi-seriously and tried to have a consistent story was when they did the Chaos Emerald arc.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And that's when we discovered some weird things about Robotnik, but that's the side of the story. But,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Adventure Sonic the Hedgehog is having very weird stuff. It's not too bad, and the guy who voices Grounder went on to do a lot of voice work as Optimus Prime in the future.
That is true, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kev.
McDonald's had put out a line of like Sonic toys at one point, and you know, I always wanted to ask this. Like, I know that they had a Dr. Eggman, Well, Dr. Robotnik, Tails, and Sonic, and Knuckles. But I was curious to know is, like, what kind of Sonic toys were they from? Were they from Sonic AM? Were they from based on the video game, or were they based on the ABC show? Because Dr. A is like Dr. Robotnik from Sonic AM.
Right, I think the thing was with the first McDonald's toys for Sonic the Hedgehog, I think they were based on a bit of both. I think they were based on a bit on Adventure Sonic the Hedgehog and a bit on the Sonic the Hedgehog games. I think they were based on a bit of both if you look at them, and sure enough, they basically were. But I don't know. I don't know too much about the Sonic McDonald's toys. I know the different lines they had, and there was quite a few of them. Like the first one was based on like Adventure Sonic the Hedgehog / I think it was like Sonic 2 or 3 around the time. I'm not sure off the top of my head, and then the second line of Sonic McDonald's toys was based off like Sonic R.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Sonic R.
Yeah, we get that, but just one of those things.
Yeah. Whew. We'll get to there soon.
And Patricia just had Vietnam flashbacks.
Oh yeah, she would love that.
Okay, let's get back on track. So yeah, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog was very child-friendly. It did a lot of Looney Tunes-esque gags, and it had a lot. It was really quick, and it was really fast-paced, like literally fast-paced. Like one situation, Sonic can be doing something, and then another situation, Dr. Robotnik would be coming along with his incompetent henchmen. I mean, it was just really, really just... I mean, you needed to be paying attention, or you needed to be high in order for you to know what was going on.
Yeah.
Are you high, Patty?
No, I am not high. Not now. Maybe later, but not now. Continuing on. As for Sonic Sat AM, this is the one that many people still regard as one of the best, not only Sonic cartoons, maybe the best Sonic cartoon, but also one of the best cartoons that featured in the 90s, because it was much more serious. It took place in a post-apocalyptic world where Robotnik pretty much took over, and Sonic was a part of a resistance team led by Princess Sally, in which they would try to take down Robotnik and lead everything to peace. So it was kind of interesting because, Princess Sally would only appear in Saturday AM and in the comics. She would never appear in any of the, video games.
She did appear in, later on, that cast did appear in the Archie comics. But yeah, again, Saturday AM was a special show because it dealt with a lot of not dark tone, but it dealt with a lot of good stuff kids should be learning at a young age, and it did it in a way that it was interesting, it kept the audience going, and also even adults who might have to watch the show with their kids would watch and probably would not be completely bored by it,
Yeah, as opposed to in The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, in which they would be teaching lessons on Sonic Says about no smoking to don't crawl into the dryer.
Oh, that was brilliant hearing that one. Don't crawl in the jump. What on earth?
Who crawls into the dryer? Seriously.
That was your favorite one, huh, Patty?
That was stupid. Oh, God. Okay. I'm back on track. So yeah, unfortunately, Sonic Sat AM was canceled in its first or second season, which it's a shame because I could have seen it continued on.
Well, the second season ended up
on a cliffhanger.
The second season started on a cliffhanger, which everyone was so frustrated about.
Yeah, I think that the creature that was supposed to be revealed, I think it was going to be Metal Sonic.
Well, no. That was one of the rumours. It was the creator came out and said this. It was supposed to be Icarus Norgus, who appeared earlier on in that season.
Ah, well.
Because what happened was, the main storyline was supposed to be Dr. Robotnik did a deal with Icarus Norgus to help him take over the Kingdom Acorn and become the new ruler of it. And when Robotnik didn't keep up his side of the bargain was when he did become in power and free Icarus Norgus. Icarus Norgus got a little bit pissed off, is probably the best way to put it, and so Snively knew Dr. Robotnik's plan was going to fail, so he got Icarus Norgus out for the Nexus, and Icarus Norgus now helping would have been helping Snively in some sort of way or fashion.
Yes,
but Robotnik would have been stuck in the Nexus Zone with Victor Snorkus for the large majority of the time, with him torturing him relentlessly. That was the main storyline for that.
Yeah, it's such a shame that it never came out.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I mean, was it talked about at all in the comics?
I think it was talking a little bit in Saturday AM sort of thing, but it wasn't really established that much. That was the thing, because the Archie comics at that time really had its own continuity, you know?
I understand. I guess the last cartoon that we can talk about that came out around that late time was Sonic Underground. I really don't know what to think of it. I mean, Sonic apparently is part of royalty, and he had a brother and sister, and they were in a band. Now, I can understand the band part because that was supposed to be like the original, scrap part in which Sonic was part of a band. I get that, but it was just weird.
I mean, sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks. We did a riff on the first episode of Sonic Underground, as well as we did a riff on the Christmas special on The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which that was a fever dream in itself.
I have a question to ask.
What's up?
I know it's skipping a little. What was everybody's response to Sonic's cameo appearance in Wreck-It Ralph?
I think everyone was happy with that.
Yeah, in fact, I remember when I went to the theater and watched Wreck-It Ralph for the first time. All the little kids that were sitting and watching the movie, they all screamed out, "Oh, it's Sonic! It's Sonic! Look, it's Sonic!" And they didn't say anything else about any of the other characters. They didn't say anything about Zangief. They didn't say anything about the zombie from Resident Evil. They didn't say anything about Bowser. No, it was all about Sonic.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me wonder about why Sonic wasn't in the movie a little bit longer, but whatever.
I was so annoyed at that. I really think he should have been in the movie longer. Supposedly, I don't know if anyone wants to vouch for this, supposedly Tails is in the movie too, but it's a very, you have to have, really good eyes, and I don't trust the Disney Wikipedia page because, long story short, for the Who Framed Roger Rabbit cameo appearance, some guy or girl or whoever made a laundry list of every single cartoon character that appeared in a movie. For example, Scooby-Doo, Fred Flintstone. Apparently Woody and Buzz was in the movie, even though Roger Rabbit came out in 1988 and Toy Story came out in 1995. So I was a little wary of trusting that, and I saw it, and it looks like Tails. It's the scene where they show, it's the first scene when they show, in the arcade. But I'm not, in the Game Central, but I can't vouch for that. But I wish he was in the movie a lot longer. I mean, yeah, when he did that commercial, it was the foreshadowing of the movie. I thought that was cool, but I kind of wish he had a little bit more of interaction with Ralph or whatever. So, and when the sequel does come out, because apparently it is coming out, I do hope that they take notes and they do give him a longer cameo appearance, I guess, but I know that's really wishful thinking because the main focus of the movie, from what I heard, is going to be Mario and Tron and Lara Croft.
Yeah. Well, we'll just see, Kevin. I mean, never say never.
Never.
All right, well, right before we get into Thank you. Right before we get into the good stuff, we might as well start into talking about the late 90s shit. And I'm talking, first and foremost, let's talk about some of the iffy games that came out during that time. Well, I guess we could start off with Sonic Labyrinth. That really awkward isometric game that kind of slowed down the speed because Dr. Robotnik replaced Sonic's shoes with quote-unquote speed-down boots.
Those boots were very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were heavy-weighted boots sort of thing, just, there.
I first played this game on the, Sonic the Hedgehog collection, and I don't know, I mean, there was something about it that made it really awkward to control, and it moved so slow, and, the whole point was to collect 3 keys in order for you to open up the door to the next level, and there was a lot of obstacles in the way, but it just was so super slow, and just so clunky and awkward to control.
This was Sonic Labyrinth, regarded as one of the worst Sonic games of all time for a long time until a certain game came out, but we get to that when we get to that.
Yeah.
But, it was a stupid little game that was made for, what was it, the Game Gear, so,
Yeah.
It. Who played it?
Yeah, to be quite honest, nobody played any of the Sonic games on the Game Gear. I didn't know anybody who played any of those games on the Game Gear.
I actually played it.
You played... Oh, okay, stop. You played the Sonic games on the Game Gear. You played Knuckles Chaotix, yet you've never played Sonic 3.
Yep.
I don't know you anymore.
Okay, here's your homework. After this podcast, you will go away, you will find a copy of Sonic 3 on some sort of form of device, and you will play it, and you will come back here next week, mister, and you will give our analysts and your total honest view on Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It can't just be Sonic 3, it has to be Sonic 3 and Knuckles so you can get the full experience. You got that, mister?
You know I'm messing with you guys, right?
No, I'm not messing with you. I'm going to be back here next week. I want to answer them, mate.
I don't play the later Sonic games. I don't have any,
No. Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Go back and play it, and you come back here and give me my full analysis on the desk, a 50,000 word essay. Now go.
Actually, if I could have a homework assignment where I could play video games, shit, where were you when I was young? Where were you when I was in kindergarten? I would love you as a teacher. I probably wouldn't like Patty as a teacher, because she probably would be like, nah, I'm joking, I'm just messing with you.
Alright, well, why don't we just continue on with the other crap? Okay. Now we can go into the game that gave me brain damage. Sonic R. Ugh, God help me. So, Sonic R, the first fully 3D game for the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. And it was a really crappy racing game. If you thought that Sonic Drift, which was a rip-off of Mario Kart, was bad, Sonic R was even worse. Much worse. The controls were awful. The soundtrack was atrocious. There was no strategy to how to control any of the characters to play. It was it was an experience that I will never forget, and for all the wrong reasons. Anybody have anything to say about this?
I just wanted to soak in on what you just said, because that was pretty funny.
Gee, thank you.
So you didn't like the Sonic racing games. But let me ask you a question. If you didn't like the Sonic racing games, what did you think about the Mario racing games?
Mario Kart is good.
So you think the Sonic games were trying to be like Mario Kart?
Yes. And the first ones were so horrible that it just made me want to play Mario Kart.
Did you play Mario Kart after you did that?
Yes, I had to. I had to atone for my sins.
It was one of those things that Sonic R was not good. Sonic Drift games were horrible. I think the only good Sonic game, racing games, I would say, for anyone who haven't played them, go and play them, is Sega All-Star Racing games.
Okay, yeah, those are good. We'll get to that later, but the early stuff, don't play them. Don't play them.
No.
Play them, folks. I want you to play them. Patty's telling you to play them.
Subliminal message. Don't play them, but play them. Just so you know how bad they are.
Play them. I think you should. I think everybody should play them.
I guess that should be it for now, so why don't we get into...
the toys. What does everybody think about the the new toys that come out? What's the company that puts them out?
Tommy.
Yeah, what do you guys think of those?
I really have no opinion on the toys, because that's not my sort of thing. Sorry.
What are your opinions on the toys, Kevin? Because you're the toy expert.
Very cheap. There's what was the Jawas toys? I have the 12-inch Sonic, and I thought it was really cool that they had one that was made from velvet. That was a Comic-Con one, which was really cool, and I want to get my hands on that, but that's like $80 and up. But the toys are just, the paint jobs are horrible on them. It's, damn, man, like, Jaws is probably like the worst toy company ever. I wasn't even impressed with their Nicktoons toy thing. I was just so disappointed with them. Like, they wanted to do, like, the anniversary for the original games. I was so surprised they didn't make a Dr. Eggman figure. They made everyone else, but not him. I was really disappointed by that.
Yeah. There was an arcade game based off Sonic the Hedgehog that tried to capitalize on Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. Sonic the Fighters. Anybody had the chance to play that? Because I didn't.
I did. I played that because they had this thing here in the UK, in London, called Sega World. And Sega World promoted a lot of their arcade-based games, and Sonic the Fighter was an arcade-based game, and guess what they had there? Sonic the Fighters, and I played it. And I played it a lot. And it was a fun game, for what it was worth.
For what it was worth, yes. But, I guess as a Sonic game, it was really much of a novelty, but when you think of Sonic, I don't think of fighting games. I mean, back then we didn't have Super Smash Brothers, but, for Sonic to be in a fighting game, that was kind of off-putting. Because he was all about the speed, he wasn't all about the punching. This ain't Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Yeah.
And also, they had some character inclusions that would never feature in any Sonic game ever again.
Very true, Pat.
What else is there? Dr. Robotnik's Mean Beam Machine?
I didn't play this until it came out on the Mega Collection. Okay game.
Yeah, it's okay. If I wanted to play, like, a Tetris-like game that involved with jelly beans, I would play Dr. Mario. Now we can get into the topic that you are all waiting for. When we reached the Sega Dreamcast, which was essentially one of the big consoles way ahead of its time.
Yeah, it was one of those consoles that, like I said, way ahead of its time. Probably a little bit too way ahead of its own time, and sadly didn't last for more than 2 years.
2 or 3 years, yeah.
2 or 3 years, and it just fell on its ass because financial problems with Sega, with the failed consoles. This is what people got to remember when it came to the Dreamcast. You had the failure of the Mega CD, you had the failure of the 32X, you had the failure of the Saturn. All this built up, and then the Dreamcast came out, and it just didn't have... the first year did really well, and then the PlayStation 2 out and completely destroyed it.
Yeah, the PlayStation 2 pretty much crushed it, like, as Zangief would say, like, heads between thighs.
Yeah.
Say that again, Patty.
Heads between thighs.
You say thigh, very funny.
Thank you. So, while we're on it, I might as well go into the good times of the Dreamcast and discuss about Sonic Adventure.
This is one of the Sonic games a lot of people seem to play when it came. And again, Sonic first full 3D adventure game, very good for its time, very enjoyable. Probably hasn't aged as well as it did, but still such a fun, enjoyable game. And Tristan, you suck at catching those damn frogs.
Tristan's gonna listen to this.
Yeah, I know. That's the reason why I said that. But yeah, it's just one of those things. It's just thoroughly enjoyed Sonic Adventure. It was a good outing for it, and it played more than just Sonic. Like it basically plays Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Big the Cat. Tristan, you suck at those levels still. And Gamma, which is the first time you play as a henchman for Robotnik.
Yeah, it gave a different perspective of playing as one of the henchmen for Robotnik, because for the most part you played as the good guy. You never played as the bad guy, or even close to it. So when you have Gamma, and being such a really sympathetic character, a lot of people thought that, Gamma was like one of the most memorable characters that ever featured in any of the Sonic games.
Yeah, and it's the only character that Sega had the balls to kill off and never bring back. I'm looking at you, Shadow.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about Shadow the Hedgehog pretty soon.
Yeah, but yeah, again, we get to that when we get to that. But again, so it had a lot of memorable gameplay stuff. Like the Sonic levels were the most played. Tails were quite interesting twists on Sonic's level. Knuckles were good, per se. They were not too big, not too overexcited, and they had a good balance with Knuckles games. Amy's, take it or leave it, and then Big, no one liked him. And
yeah, nobody liked Mr. Big, despite the fact that he was voiced by the same guy who did Duke Nukem.
Yeah, that was just, when I found out years and years later, I was like, what? And yep, and sure enough, and Gamma, very interesting gameplay, which did cross over later on to be worked on in Sonic Adventure 2.
Yes. And speaking of Adventure 2, many people think that Sonic Adventure 2 was by far the, out of the 3D Sonic games, one of the best. If not, probably, better than Sonic Adventure 1.
I can understand why people like Sonic Adventure 2 more than Adventure 1. Adventure 2 really upped the ante. It fixed some of the problems with the previous games, and it was more streamlined sort of thing. But yeah, again, the treasure hunter levels can really go F themselves on this one, because they basically had a good system in the first game to something they really buggered up and broken in the second game.
That is true. But one of the highlights of Adventure 2 was that you get to play either the good mode or the bad mode, and It had one of the best soundtracks in the entire franchise.
which was done by Crush 40, which their first debut was in the Sonic Adventure 1.
That's right.
And they've been doing music for them ever since.
And it's definitely still shows, because even with the most mediocre or downright awful games in the modern era, as we talk, many people call it, they still say that the music is definitely the highlight of those games. It's kind of like when we were talking a couple of days ago, talking about Tron Legacy, in which people remember two things about it. They remember the effects and the soundtrack by Daft Punk.
Yeah. Again, two games which are a story loved by the fans and arguably some of the best 3D Sonic games. And actually, I believe it was that the first Sonic games, they tried to implement a story. Like the first one dealt with Robotnik unleashing an ancient creature called Chaos from ancient Echidna times, and the whole point of Chaos, Robotnik wanted to collect the 7 Chaos Emeralds to give the Chaos to become perfect Chaos to destroy Station Square to build Robotnik Land. And yeah, that was pretty much the story. And it was Sonic Tails to stop Robotnik before this plan was fulfilled.
You know, for most people who probably played Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, I'm gonna guess that most likely they did not play it on the Dreamcast, and they played it on the GameCube port, Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut, and its sequel, Sonic Adventure 2.
Well, this was the thing, that most people, it's when you speak to people and you ask them, what was your first Sonic game? They're always the two most highest questions I would get was either, first time I played it was on the Mega Drive with Sonic 2, or was Sonic Adventure 2 on the Dreamcast, or on the GameCube.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting about how, Sonic Adventure would become the best-selling Dreamcast game ever, and yet at the same time, people have more fondness towards Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah.
Again, going back to that mentality of the sequel being better than the original, about which one is better. The first or the second one, or the second one or the third one.
But yeah, Patricia, we're forgetting one thing about the Dreamcast.
Which is?
Which is Sonic the Hedgehog's odd cousin out of the 3 Sonic games on the thing was Sonic's Shuffle.
Oh yes, Sonic Shuffle. Sonic's answer to Mario Party.
You know what so made me laugh about that?
What?
That was made by the same people who made Mario Party.
Hudson Soft?
Yeah, it's made by them.
Shut up! Why was it so bad then?
Well, I don't know, because Sega, they probably rushed it out the front door just to compete with Mario Party, and other things, and yeah, it just wasn't.
It sucked. It really sucked. I had no idea it was made by Hudson Soft, because, when I think, Hudson Soft and Mario Parties, they were great. At least the ones on the N64 were great, but, there was just no wonder they never made another Sonic Party series, because the first one was just awful.
Yeah, it's just like one of those things. It's just like, how can you make such a bad Sonic game? Even though it was developed by Sonic Team and Hudson Soft, but
still, Hudson Soft. Come on, they made Bomberman. They know how to make good games sometimes.
I did. It was buggy hell, and the AI was so unfair. It's like, anyone tells you to play this game, never play it above easy. And if people tell you, no, that's a pussy way to do it, no. The AI in this game cheats so badly against you.
Ugh, man.
It knows what cards it got, it knows how many spaces it even know what cards you got, and it can use that against you.
And to think that the mini games, the party games that they had, none of them were memorable, and if they were, they were broken.
Oh yeah, they were broken. They were unfair, and also you couldn't even replay them. You had this thing called the room, which you can go and play in, but yeah, in this game, it had a plot.
Yeah, which they focused a lot more on the plot than they did with the gameplay, as opposed to in the Mario Party games, it was little on the plot, but the mini games or the party games were fun. I guess that's what their main problem was.
Yeah, the best way to describe the story was that Sonic and Co. go to Dream World, where dreams and other dimensions are born, blah blah blah. The goddess of dreams saying that the stone or precious stones or whatever they call got broken, and dreams of reality are falling apart, and so on, etc. And so, yes, sure enough,
In
Sonic,
other
Tails,
words,
and
it
Amy
just...
and Knuckles have to save the dimensions and whatnot.
Yeah, so in the end, it just boiled down to a big pile of shit.
Exactly.
Ugh.
I was never able to beat that game. I got to that second last board, but I was like, you know what, screw this. I can't be arsed.
Yeah, don't even bother with it.
Yeah, even had unlockable characters in it, which you unlock, which you can buy. The unlockable characters were Big the Cat, I believe, a Chow, E102, Gamma, and I'm trying to remember the Supersonic. And I think you can unlock Knights if you put your game onto a certain setting on a certain date.
Well, that sucks. It would have been a good opportunity to cross over with more characters, like, you know, maybe one of the Super Monkey Ball characters, or Crazy Taxi, or maybe, you know, what was his name? That character from Shenmue, or something. It would have been nice to have more characters.
I think that was before those games came out. I think Sonic Shuffle came out in 2000, and I think Crazy Taxi wasn't out by then.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right. I think it came out in like 2001 or something. I don't remember.
Yeah. It was one of those weird things, and no one remembers it. It was a boring game. Sadly, no one remembers it, and no one wants to remember it.
Yeah, definitely. But there's one that has been forgotten that it shouldn't, and in my opinion, they're pretty good, and nobody really talks about them. The Sonic Advance series on the GBA.
Yeah, Sonic Advance games, this was the first introduction to Dimps actually making the Sonic games for the handheld console. They were pretty much decent enough games. No one really had any fuss with them. I think the second one was the most unfair for getting the Chaos Emeralds, but apart from that, they were pretty much enjoyable Sonic games, and I can't really find any faults with them apart from getting the special stage, getting to the special stage, and getting the Chaos Emeralds were really unfair in the Sonic Advance games.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that was also kind of like a novelty because this was when, you know, the 3D Sonic games were pretty much dominant because it was all about 3D games, and the only way you can be able to play 2D games was on handhelds.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Again, they were pretty much enjoyable game. They had storylines and such like that. And I think Sonic Adventure Advance 2 or 3 made it official that Sonic likes chili dogs in the manual.
Yeah, I think so, because if you guys recall from the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, his favorite food was always chili dogs, and I guess they decided to make it canon for some reason.
I don't mind that. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just one of those things that Sonic did well enough in, and sure enough, he even had 2 spin-off games in the handheld department as well.
Yes, that's right. I think it was Sonic Battle, I believe that was one of them.
That game is amazing. That is such an enjoyable game. It's such an underrated game as well. For anyone who ever played it, trying to find a copy of it, you will not regret it. It is one of the most enjoyable Sonic spin-off games, and also it tries to tell the story, and the story isn't half bad in that game.
You know, it's pretty interesting of how the story progression went, because I think this was like the furthest that they've ever tried to, you know, do this, because, you know, it's a fighting game essentially. I mean, this was the second fighting game in the series. In this case, it kind of sort of made a little bit more sense.
Yeah, which to a lot of people were like, wait, what? And it played a tiny bit like an RPG as well, when it had RPG element when you have to refight character over again, you relearn their skills, because you play the main character you play in this game a lot, but you don't play the recurring character in each chapter you play as a lot. It's not Sonic. It's a new character called Emerald, which is a fighting robot. Mega Man, but it's just a robot that learns abilities by being in fights or watching people, and you can customize this character to have any ability or any moves in the game.
Yes, agreed.
This was just done really well, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that it never spun off into more installments. Well,
I would love to see a second Sonic Sonic Battle game. That's the thing. I would have loved to see a second Sonic. Review-wise, it did good as well. It got positive reviews, and also I think it sold well. But I think this was not interesting in there wasn't a market, there wasn't a high enough market demanding a Sonic Battle 2, but sort of happens,
Yeah.
And then the other GBA game that you had as well was Sonic Sega Spinball.
Oh yeah, the Sonic pinball game, yeah.
Yep. Which was kind of weird and relentless and kind of dumb, but it was tricky, and if any pinball enthusiasts out there, it was a good challenge.
Yeah. And, well, the one that came out on the GBA that I felt that was probably the worst out of all of them was the port of Sonic the Hedgehog. It was so buggy and slow.
Oh dear. No one liked that game. No one. The screen crunch, the slowdown, the unfair advantage, and the lag. Oh my god, there was nothing good about that game.
And the music was so horrible.
And I think that puts insult to injury as well. Years later, someone got the ROM of it, recoded it, and actually made it playable.
Wow, they actually took the time to recode a really crappy game into something playable? That's like the same guy who got the ROM for Castlevania 2 and made it playable.
You know what's even more insult to that? They even put Tails and Knuckles in the game, playable characters, on added bonus.
Oh boy.
So, insult to injury, if you can say.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we're not in the clear for bad Sonic games. We're only just beginning.
We have gone, as I like to call it, the dark ages of Sonic the Hedgehog.
After Sonic Adventure 2, let's just say that it started going downhill from here, and most people's opinion on the game that pretty much started the downhill of Sonic was Sonic Heroes.
Yeah, the thing was with Sonic Heroes, for a little bit of backstory, Sega went into bankruptcy, they closed down their console division, and they just primarily focus on video games from now on. And their first game was Sonic Heroes. While a game that sold well, it got mixed reviews to positive reviews, but deep down, a lot of people did not like it, and the only playable version of the game was the GameCube version. The PlaysStation 2 version was the worst version that there ever was, and unfortunately, I had that version of the game.
I had that version too.
Yeah, and I don't know too much about the Xbox version, but I heard it was better than the PlayStation 2 version on some levels. But it just wasn't an enjoyable game. It did have its moments, and it did brought back Metal Sonic, who was in a comatose sleep for God knows how long. But it had some interesting moments. The story. This was the problem. It came off from Sonic Adventure 2, which took a very, darkish, serious tone for the franchise. We're trying to go back to a more happy slapstick sort of vibe, beat up sort of thing, and it just wasn't good. It was all over the place. Didn't know what it wanted to be, and to get the final stage was unfair as hell. Like, you had you played three characters once, and there was Sonic, there was the Sonic team, there was Team Dark, there was Team Chaotix, and there was the Team Rose, and each one played differently. Like the Sonic team was essentially the normal version of the game, while Team Dark was the hard version of the game. Team Rose was the easy version of the game, and Team Chaotix was, let's just throw random shit and make them do this stuff in different levels.
Yeah, Team Chaotix, I don't even know why they put it in there.
It was not good.
Yeah, it was pointless.
Oh yeah, go for it. Just wasn't fun.
One of the very few things that I really liked about Sonic Heroes was, again, the soundtrack. I really liked some of the songs, and some of the level design was pretty, good, but the controls were so slippery, especially when you played on the PS2 version, which was undeniably the worst. I mean, just in itself, it may also have hands down the worst, bonus level to catch the Chaos Emeralds.
Which, funny enough, they decided to bring it back for the Sonic Sega All Star series when they used the webcam thing for the PlayStation 2?
I think so, yeah. I think the iToy.
Yeah, that was not good.
It was so quick, you had no control over it. If you hit one of the mines, you basically explode and you lose time. If you don't catch all the bubbles right before a certain amount of time, you lose.
Yeah, not fun.
Not even close to fun. It's just awful. And also the final stages in which you had to involve with the railing, the rail levels was really disorienting and awful. Also, the story was all over the place at times, especially when it came to, the Team Rose one was weird. It was all about trying to find Froggy, and then
Froggy and Coco.
Yeah, that was weird. It's like, really? That's all you got? You couldn't come up with anything better?
Yep.
And then, of course, which would be foreshadowing for another game that will be coming out, Shadow had amnesia. Because everybody loves characters with amnesia.
Well, this was the thing, I find with the whole Shadow arc and the whole thing like that, was that, what happened was that Sonic, I just want to call it, I like to call it the adventure arc. Basically started with Sonic Adventure 1, then you had Sonic Adventure 2, then Heroes, and then Shadow the Hedgehog sort of finished off the adventure arc, and it went into this whole new arc which we are in at the moment.
Right. So it basically just wanted to start off from scratch.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a way to get the fans going.
It just wasn't fun.
Nope, not even close. Yeah, a lot of people have mixed opinions about Sonic Heroes. Some people liked it, some people hated it. I don't know how to feel about it. I just feel towards the middle of it. That's pretty much all I can say about it. How about you, Tom?
I don't know. I just wasn't a fan of Sonic Heroes. Just wasn't an enjoyable game. But, it's one of those things.
Yeah. Alright, well, I guess we can go on to Dark and Gritty, Shadow the Hedgehog.
Oh god, this game just sucks.
Yeah.
It was not enjoyable, and it tried to explain Shadow's backstory, which it just ended up to Luke, I am your father storyline with Black Doom. And it completely destroyed the character of Joe Robotnik from Sonic Adventure 2, and you have to beat the game over 20 times to unlock the true ending, and you have to beat in a certain order to get all the endings. It just wasn't fun.
And they tried so hard to make Shadow the Hedgehog look cool, giving him guns, letting him drive around in this clunky automobile, making him swear, having Sonic not even in the game as much.
Yeah, but the whole focus of the game was meant to be Shadow, and it was basically, I like calling it Frankenstein's monster, because they borrowed a lot of stuff from Sonic Adventure, gameplay and engine, and it just borrowed graphics and designs, and it was a blatant, game that took everything from different games and just slapped it all in one thing, and that's why I call it Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this was kind of like trying to get into the more nitty-gritty, hardcore stuff, because I believe it came out around the same time as God of War.
God of War, GTA, that sort of era.
Yeah, it was trying to go for more dark and gritty, because, things were turning very dark and gritty around that time. You had, the Jak and Daxter series kind of went dark and gritty with Jak 2, and I think this was around the same time that Jak X came out, which was a really dark and gritty racing game. I think it also came out around the same time as, maybe a year before or after Ratchet Deadlock, which was considered to be the darkest in the series.
Yeah.
And, you had GTA, you had God of War. A lot of things were just really dark, and I guess this is Sega's attempt of trying to be that way.
It just didn't work out.
Nah, I just made it look stupid.
Would have been the first time for Sonic, and it would be multiple times for Sonic in Sonic's history.
That's true. I guess we're going to be talking about the next one, which, knowing Nick, he's probably going to be arguing about, what are you guys talking about? This game is awesome. It's all nostalgic to me. Sonic Riders. I know Nick loves Sonic Riders. I tried playing it once, and I cannot control it.
The first Sonic Rider game was at least fun on some degree.
I couldn't play it.
The later installments are just horrible. Zero Gravity, meh. And then free riders, the less said about that, the better. But the only good thing that did it again, some people are going to disagree with me on this, is that it gave us one of the only few Angry Joe reviews that I liked.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Nick, I'm sure you're probably angry at us and you're saying, screw you guys, I'm going home. But
I'm going to go back home, eat my Doritos, drink my Mountain Dew, and shoot my shotgun because I'm American.
oh god, Nick is gonna kill us. Anyway. Yeah, I know you don't care. Anyway, but yeah, the first time I tried Sonic Riders, I rented it, and I tried playing with it, and I don't know, I couldn't control it, it just was too, I mean, every time I tried to go into a direction, it kind of like just jaded off to one side, and I don't know, I mean, I just could never control the game. It just felt, it felt like, it felt like the game was controlling me at some point, in which,
It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
And it had the most ridiculous storylines ever, which every single game we retcon its own storyline in every single game. You know, for continuity's sake.
Yeah, for continuity's sake. It's like, oh, the sequel's coming out. It's like, wait, what happened to what happened in the last one? It's like, shh, we don't want to say anything about it.
Yep.
But still, I mean, this was another attempt of trying to have, Sonic compete against Mario Kart and try to do it in more extreme ways, but it just came across as broken.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Okay, right, I just want to quickly clarify this. During Sonic's 15-year anniversary, it was a dark year.
Oh, no.
I'd just like to remind people, during this year, we got Sonic Riders, Sonic and the Secret Rings, which was meh, and then keep in mind, these two games beforehand did not get good reviews. Like, Sonic and Secret Ring got mixed reviews, while Sonic Riders did not get good reviews. Sonic 06.
Oh.
Which this should have killed the whole franchise.
When I first saw the E3 demo of, Sonic 06, and it looked fine. And then when I played it, I felt a part of me just died.
Well, this is the funny thing I learned about Sonic 06, was that the version of the game we got was not the final product of the game. Apparently it was the best working version and the most stable version of the game they could have put on disc to get it out for Sonic's 15-year anniversary.
So where's the good version?
No, seriously. And also it didn't help that Yuji Naka left the company at the time and took a load of the staff with him that were working on the Hedgehog engine, was supposed to be in this game. Supposed to debuted in it, didn't work. And if you look at the visual trailer for this game, it looks nothing, and I mean nothing like the final game.
I know. That's why I was so disappointed of it, because they were hyping this up to no end, and it looks so incredible. They were hyping this up to be like a brand new, fresh start for the Sonic the Hedgehog, franchise, because the games that came out before were kind of mediocre. Like we mentioned before about Sonic Heroes and Shadow the Hedgehog, and the Sonic Riders games, but this one was supposed to be different. This was supposed to come out, it was supposed to be different, it was supposed to be fresh and new, it was supposed to be like the classic Sonic games that we would know. But
it felt like a very Final Fantasy-esque sort of game. They were trying to go with a more serious, darker tone and more realistic look for it.
And it didn't work at all. I mean, if this was kind of like their answer to Kingdom Hearts, it failed miserably.
It failed miserably in both aspects of the game, which was that the gameplay, every moment of the gameplay sucked, the technical side sucked, and the story. My God, the story.
The story was the worst in the series, bar none. I mean, the fact that they brought in the Princess Alicia as a plot device, not as a character, a plot device. And of course, the infamous scene in which, Sonic dies, and Alicia kisses him in order for Sonic to be revitalized again. And I guess this is why that in the original Sonic the Hedgehog, when they wanted to bring in Madonna, this is the reason why they didn't want to do it, because it's disgusting. You have a human and an animal making love to one another. I mean, if you want to consider, about Tess and Daxter from the Jack and Daxter series, about how they're quote-unquote a couple, Well, yeah, that was disgusting, but guess what? At least in Jack X, Tess turned into an Otzel, which is why they could have their relationship. But in this case, no, Alicia's still human and she kisses a hedgehog. Ugh.
Yeah.
I wanted to drown my eyes in bleach and put salt all over it.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It was a dark, dark time.
Yeah, this should have been the game to kill the franchise because it did so many things wrong. And I mean, it's still a punchline, even to this day, about how bad this game is.
Yeah, and it's just like, it was a dark era in Sonic's past, and it just one that just was never let go, and it should have killed the franchise, but didn't. But again, Sonic fought back, and it came back with Sonic Unleashed not long after.
That's right, and you know, I have mixed opinions about it, because in the day stages, I love them. I loved the day stages.
This was my thing with it. This is my little thing in a nutshell with Sonic Unleashed. Get rid of the nighttime stages. Worked on the day stages more. Add more day stages there. Worked out the frame rate issue, and you know what? You would have had a very good Sonic game.
Yeah, you would have had a good Sonic game to, you know, overcompensate the fact that you released a horrible one.
Yeah, I was so shocked when I heard, okay, you're adding the Hedgehog in this game. Why?
You know, because, you know, Shadow the Hedgehog tried to be all gritty and dark, and, you know, that wasn't enough.
I was surprised Sega was willing enough to take a risk with do another risk like this after Sonic 06.
Well, I can understand that they didn't want to play it too safe, but still, I mean, it was just, you know, the night stages were tedious, they were boring, and they were extremely redundant when it came to fighting off the baddies over and 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 over again.
I'm guessing over and over and over again?
Yes, it's like, you know, the Energizer Bunny keeps going and going and going and going and going.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, at least it was a bit of an improvement over, you know, Sonic 06, but then again, anything is an improvement over Sonic 06.
True that.
And, well, I guess we can quickly talk about Sonic and the Secret Rings, because that was supposed to be a port of Sonic 06, but they decided to, you know, make a Sonic game that worked with the Wii's controls, and, well, we got ourselves a completely different game, and I don't know about you, but the controls on that game are just horrible.
The controls are bad. If they just worked on the controls and everything like that and just made it a little bit more fun. It wasn't a bad game. It was an okay, decent game. But, you know, by this point, it was to be expected to say, go Sonic 101. It's like, you get hyped. This is Sonic 101. You dread the next Sonic game. You get the news. You get hype. The game release. You bitch and moan about it. Rinse, repeat cycle.
Yeah, and also the same could also be said for Sonic and the Black Knight.
Yeah, Sonic Black Knight. The only thing that was better, I would say, that's better than Secret Rings, because at least then you can control Sonic in direction you want to go in. I can say, to some extent, but still not as good.
No, well, at least Sonic had a sword, but other than that, it was okay.
A talking sword.
Yeah, and that isn't like...
And it's canon.
Oh, God. And people complain about Fi from Skyward Sword later turning into the spirit of the Master Sword, saying that was annoying. Well, Sonic did it first.
Yeah, Sonic did it.
Sonic did it. Sonic did it. Yeah. I guess nothing much to say about those, so I guess we can go over to the next one, which, Sonic Rush.
The Sonic Rush games were good, very enjoyable games, again made by Dibs, and Dibs had got in the habit of bottomless pits, A-OK for players to get frustrated by, but yeah, and also he introduced a new character of Blaze in Sonic Rush, which became another fan favourite, and even gone to the extent with the creator of him, the creator came out and saying, no, Blaze had nothing to do with Sonic 06, that never happened. But yeah, was interesting. It was interesting with Blaze, and she was an interesting character. Again, the total opposite of Sonic from another dimension, a mix of Knuckles put into her as well. But interesting character and interesting little games. And funny enough, games were actually fairer to get the count symbols in than the previous games in some regards.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly.
Yeah.
But yeah, enjoyable.
Yeah, I guess, you know, I would feel the same way as I do about the Sonic Advance series, that they were enjoyable. They were really nice, you know, Sonic games that you could be able to play on your handhelds that were pretty decent.
Yeah.
The ones that I have never played were the Sonic Rivals games on the PSP. I have never played those because I don't own a PSP and I don't know anybody who owns a PSP. Have you ever played them?
I've played Sonic Riders 1 because my mate owned a PSP for a little bit, but apart from that, no.
Alright, well, nothing much we can talk about, but now we can get into a little bit of, as we say, the light at the end of the rainbow. The clouds.
Thank God.
The clouds departing away, and the sun comes down with a glowing bright light descending with the game Sonic Colors on the Nintendo Wii.
Thank God this helped. Sonic Colors first came out, it got mixed reception. People were like, what on earth are they doing? And then the game came out, people played it, and everyone was like, oh my God, this is a good Sonic game.
Yeah, and on the Nintendo Wii, no less. Because, you know, Sonic games on the Wii, you know, we already had, you know, Sonic and the Secret Rings and Sonic and the Black Knight. I mean, we had literally no expectations on this game. And then, you know, when, you know, the critics saying that it was great, and then people picked it up and they said it was amazing. And, you know, I was just so hesitant at first because, you know, I heard this stuff before. I didn't want to get disappointed again. And then when I picked it up and it was like, oh my, thank you. Whoever made this, thank you. It was so incredible. The graphics were amazing. The soundtrack was awesome. And the Wisps were a great way to, you know, a great way to implicate different gameplay.
And also a semi-decent storyline as well. Arguably, some people said a good storyline to some extent, and a funny one in that too.
Yeah, definitely.
But again, it was like a very good game, and also, like I said, you mentioned the music. Music is amazing, especially the final boss thing music.
I agree.
And also, this is one of the only few Sonic games I can think of in a long, long time in the modern Sonic games. You don't turn into Super Sonic in the final boss fight.
Yeah, for a lot of people may have been a little bit jarring, but I didn't mind it.
Yeah, and you didn't need to get all the game symbols to get the true ending. You just had to beat the game.
Yeah, that was good.
It kind of just added award if you did get Super Sonic.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, wait, we forgot to mention something about Sonic. I'm sure Nick is going to be angry at us if we didn't talk about it, but...
Oh, God.
Yes.
Okay, go on.
There was another Sonic cartoon that came out around the 2000s. Sonic X.
Don't care, move on.
Okay.
I seriously do. I don't like Sonic X. I really don't. I think it's over. Again, it got its fan base, but yeah, again, it created a whole generation of Sonic recolor artists and fan fiction and all sorts, and you know.
Yeah, the only thing I know about it is probably that theme song. That theme song is one of those theme songs that will never go away.
And it was dubbed by 4Kids,
Oh.
which had only one good voice actor in the whole bunch. That was Mike Pollock, but.
Well, no. What about Dan Green? I like Dan Green.
Oh, come on, Dan Green does the same voice every single time.
Oh.
It's just Yamayugi.
I know, but still.
In different tones.
Okay, fine, but still, I like Dan...
I'm Dan Green. I'm Dan Green. I'm Dan Green. Hi, I'm Dan Green.
Okay, fine, but still, I mean... alright.
Again, he was only voice actor that got positive reaction for his performance as Eggman. The rest of them, everyone hated.
Yeah, it's true. Pretty much.
Yep,
I mean,
especially Jason Griffin got a lot of heat from him from his voice acting. And the annoying thing is, before he got fired, he started getting good at voicing Sonic. I think it was a real kick in the nuts.
How ironic. Oh, so ironic. Alright, well, there you go. For all you fanboys or fangirls who like Sonic X, there, we mentioned it. Moving on. Okay, next one. So, now things were starting to pick up with Sonic Colors, so I guess the next one that we can talk about was, the first time in many years, a continuation of the classic Sonic series with Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 1. In my opinion, this game is iffy to me. Like, we discussed in detail about how much we like the classic series, and then when I downloaded this on my PSN, I didn't like it. I found the controls to be very lofty, the music was forgettable, and the gameplay was kind of okay. It was nothing wrong with it, but I don't know, I just never really cared for it.
It was okay to some extent. It was meh. You take it or leave it, but okay, not too great, not too memorable, but it was one of those games that you just sat down and once you're done playing, you're like, that happened, and...
Which is a disappointment because, it was a follow-up to Sonic 3 and Knuckles. You thought that maybe it would be a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't. It was just so bland. It was, I remember being so excited about this. I saw the trailer on YouTube, and, I was really hyped for this. And then when I played it, I was like, oh, well, okay. That was it. I expected more, but I don't know. I thought maybe, it took
It was one of the things that when Sonic 4 Episode 1 came out, and when Sonic Generations came out, everyone was like, "Oh my god, why couldn't it be like this?"
Yeah, definitely. We'll be talking about that later on, but we still have one more to go right before we get into Generations, which is Episode 2.
Yeah.
This
Episode
one,
2, you go first.
I actually liked it even less than the first one. The levels were slightly better, and there was Tails there, but I liked it even less because some of the levels were so frustrating. The controls weren't even much of an improvement, and I hated it.
Yeah, it was not enjoyable.
The first one was bland, but the second one was frustrating.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe they would have taken, Sonic Adventure, Sonic the Hedgehog episode 4 episode 1, and maybe make some improvements over it, and fix the flaws. But I don't know. For some reason, it just made it worse.
And again, it gave you no award for actually beating the game with getting all the Chaos Emeralds. It's like, nope, no award, no nothing, no secret boss, no secret ending, no nothing.
Yeah, such a disappointment. I guess there's no wonder why there was never an episode 3. Sonic
there
episode...
talks about episode 3, but it never happened.
Thank God. I wonder... I can imagine how that would be. Sonic 4, episode 3, Revenge of the Eggman. I don't get it.
There was talks about adding Knuckles into the game, but that's about it.
Well, I knew that Knuckles was probably going to be in it because, in episode 2, they brought in Tails, which is an homage to Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and I don't know. Do you think it would have been better with Knuckles, or do you think it would have been, the same thing?
Probably to improve it slightly, just to add Knuckles into the gameplay element. Again, what they did with Sonic Episode 1 with Sonic Episode 2, at least I give credit, Episode 2 improved on the gameplay vastly.
Maybe it would have, but I was just so disappointed with those 2 episodes that, if there was an episode 3, I was never going to buy it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, well, enough of that. Now let's get to the real good one. Generations. To celebrate Sonic's 20th anniversary.
Perfect way to celebrate it. This game, hands down, is one of my favourite, probably if not my favourite 3D Sonic game. It was so good. It was so well done, and I applaud it. The only fault I can say there was in it was the final boss of the game, but apart from that, no. But hands down, one of the best 3D Sonic games they've done for years.
Agreed. I remember when I saw the trailer, and it was so amazing. Classic Sonic and modern Sonic together, playing off the classic levels from your favorite classic Sonic games. The soundtrack was updated, and, I mean, sure, I was disappointed when, we did the Let's Play on the PlaysStation channel that I felt that the story should have been a little bit more better, but, looking back on it, now that I've...
I think the story, there was meant to be a new story in it, but I think it got cut for time restraints. Because that was like second-hand sort of thing. I'm actually glad they went with the motion. Right, what was your focus on, the story or the gameplay?
That is true. The story, I guess the story wasn't that important, but, I mean, the gameplay pretty much made up for it, like, immensely.
Yeah.
And I just loved them. I mean, the choosing of some of the levels for the game were amazing. But there was one nitpick I had, was that they did feature a level from Sonic 06, which means that Sonic 06 is officially canon.
Well, no, you can't, again, if you're going to go through Sonic's past, you can't do the good without the bad.
That is true, yeah. You need the...
Sorry, there's a lot of bad.
Yes, I know. You need the bad in order for you to remember never to go that bad again.
Yeah. And again, it's funny. It was interesting. I like the fact when you play Sonic Generations and they're basically saying sorry for Sonic 06 when you fight Silver and he basically a whole entire ball of debris just collapse on him. I think that was them saying sorry.
Well, apology accepted. It just took you this long for you to get to this point.
Indeed.
Alright, well, I gotta say with, a lot of people, I know that there was speculation and discussions and rumors that classic Sonic was supposed to be voiced by Jaleel White.
But it never happened.
Yeah, but it never happened. You know what? Thank God that it never happened, because, I mean, no offense to Jaleel White. I mean, I like Jaleel White, I like Urkel and all that, but...
It would have been awkward.
Yeah, it would have been so super awkward. I mean, classic Sonic is supposed to be silent, because, there was no talking back then, so I'm glad that they were able to keep it quiet, and, modern Sonic was able to talk, and all the other modern characters from the Sonic franchise were able to talk. Keep classic Sonic and classic Tails silent, please. I'm just so thankful that they did that.
Yeah. But yeah, overall game, I can't really knock it.
Yeah, neither can I. I think it'll go down in history as one of the best things that ever came out of the Sonic franchise.
Definitely.
Anyway, I guess right before we get into another main game of the Sonic franchise, have you ever played any of the Mario and Sonic series?
I played the first Mario Sonic at the Olympics. Apart from that, they really did not give any interest in the others.
Yeah, they never really interested me either. I mean, the only time in which I like to see Mario and Sonic together is in Super Smash Bros.
Yeah, that was the other game I had, was Brawl, was when Sonic and Mario was in the same game. You could fight with one another, fight against them. But apart from that, no, nothing really much apart from those games.
Yeah, I didn't really, play any of them. I guess we can talk about the next one, which is the Sega All-Stars Racing.
Again, good games. Very underrated in my opinion. The All-Star Racing games are such fun games.
It's been a while since I've played them. I think I did play, one time, and that was pretty much it. But I do remember being enjoyable.
Yeah, they're really good, enjoyable games. I really liked them.
I did like that they were able to include other Sega characters, like, some of the characters from Super Monkey Ball and Alex Kidd and the guy from Shenmue. I did like that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Alright, well, I guess we can go into the next one, which, a lot of people have a lot of mixed opinions on. The most recent one that came out, which is Sonic Lost World.
Okay, this is what I can say about Lost World. It's this. When they brought it out, it was a terrible, horrible, unfinished, broken game. But when they recently, I think it was earlier this year, they released a patch for it, which the patch fixed all the problems they had with the game, which is actually a half-decent game now, weirdly. Then they actually made it somewhat decent to play, which is weird. But yeah, again, it was weird, although I think Sega jumped the gun with this game. They literally jumped the gun with this game. I think they got a little bit cocky. They got the game out a little bit too early. If they spent another 6 months on it, they probably would have released the game with this new patch that came out.
Yeah, I mean, this was like when, Sega was bought by Nintendo. And, And also, this was when Sega was feeling a little bit cocky because, they were going to be sticking around because they were owned by Nintendo. Sonic Generations became a huge success.
Well, no. Sega, not owned by Nintendo. They had a contract deal negotiated with them that the next 3 games would be on Nintendo.
Oh, right. So, yeah, Sonic Generations was a huge success. They decided to, because they were, doing homages to, like, the classic games as well as, putting a modern twist into it, they decided to go experimental all over again with Sonic Lost World. And it was like a very awkward version of Super Mario Galaxy.
Yeah. / Sonic Extreme, which again will never release. But yeah, if we talk about that, we'll be here all day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it looks interesting. The graphics of Sonic Lost World looks interesting.
Yeah.
But the gameplay...
But the Deadly Six were just wasted stereotype characters, which are horribly portrayed, especially the female one. Christ.
Yeah.
That's offensive as hell, the female one.
True. I don't know what they were thinking with the story because, in previous Sonic games, when you had your characters, especially if they were the bad guys, I mean, you actually gave them a little bit of time of development, but nope, let's just throw in some lazily stereotypical characters and, people won't care about them. They'll only care about the gameplay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, now with, Sonic Lost World... Sonic is kind of like under the fire again because, that game received mixed reviews and, people are now saying that, Sonic's going downhill just as quickly as they got back out.
Yeah. But, again, we move up to today, Sonic Boom.
Yeah, Sonic Boom. I remember when we saw the commercial for Sonic Boom and everybody was joking about how they were all bandaged up and how Knuckles looked like he was on steroids and...
Knuckles had the most drastic character design out of all the characters, probably next to Robotnik.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, and interestingly enough, it's, this game, this installment of Sonic is done by some of the people who worked on Naughty Dog, particularly the Jak and Daxter series.
Yeah, Naughty Dog, they've also worked on the original Crash Bandicoot games as well. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how this game's going to go. Because I've been saying this from day one for a long time when, after Sonic 06, they needed someone new to work on the Sonic games, and basically they're giving the reins to a whole new studio, and I'm giving props for Sega for doing this, and I'm curious to see where it's going to go.
Yeah, and not only that, but they're also planning on having a new animated series based on these games.
That I'm looking forward to. That looks good.
It looks interesting, and, that will be coming out on Cartoon Network pretty soon, so if you're interested in that... go check it out when it comes out. But
this trailer came out for it, and I've got to say, I laughed at some of the jokes in the trailers. Like, for example, with Knuckles ticking off his head. So, Sonic, you could be my sidekick. No, Knuckles, just no.
Yes, I do admit that some of the jokes are pretty funny, and we'll just see how the game goes. I mean, never judge a book by its cover, but when it comes to the expectations we've been having over in the past about these Sonic games, it's a little hard to give hope towards it, but. You know what, from what I've been learning over the years, you have to be having an open mind when it comes to these kind of things. Otherwise, you're just going to continue being disappointed.
Exactly.
I guess that should be it for the games, and we talked a little bit about the TV series, we talked a little bit about the comic books. I guess right before we go, what are your favorite Sonic games, and what are your least favorite Sonic games?
I'm gonna sum this up in top 3.
Sure, top 3.
Okay, right. Top 3 worst Sonic games. Sonic 06.
Yep.
Sonic Labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
And Sonic Free Riders.
Okay.
And my top 3 Sonic games of all time. Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Sonic Generations. And I would have to say Sonic Adventure 2.
Okay. Top 3 worst Sonic games of all time for me. Sonic 06, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 would probably be the 2006 port of Sonic the Hedgehog on the GBA. That game was horrible.
Yeah.
And, another one, which I mean, we may have talked about briefly, but Sonic 3D Blast.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it briefly. I don't think we talked about it at all, but that game, I remember when I bought
It was fun.
No, when I first played the that game in the collection, the Genesis collection, I remember I was so confused. I mean, the design was weird, and you had to collect these birds in order for you to get to the next level, and if you get hit, you lose one of them, and you have to go back and get it. It was so disoriented, and I never forgot that. And let's see, if I had a tie, it would also be Sonic R, which I can never get that out of my mind. Okay, top 3 of my favorite Sonic games. Let's see. Sonic 3 and Knuckles, hands down my favorite 2D Sonic game. Sonic Colors. And Sonic Generations.
Okay, I'll agree with that.
Yeah, I guess that should be it for this episode of Casual Chats. Tom, do you have anything to plug or shamelessly self-promote right before we go?
Right. Okay, right. For anyone listening to this, go and watch my web series called Dynamic. Go and like it on Facebook, which is called Dynamic Web Series, and you can watch it on the Comic Book Cast. On the Comic Book Cast, you can watch my Sonic the Hedgehog reviews and my Doctor Who stuff with the other Tom. Dynamic is also I do with Tom as well. You can also find me on YouTube as indexsonic, where I do sometimes reviews of my own, or I upload my videos I do for Comic Book Cast there, and also sometime now and again Let's Plays that get uploaded there, and just other video projects of my own up on YouTube under indexsonic.
Okay. And as usual, check out our stuff. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Check out the other associated channels: Manic Expression, Comic Book Cast, Reopen Nickelodeon Studios Facebook page, PlaysStation, and also we'll be announcing some upcoming things that we'll be doing. So stay tuned for that. Until then, this has been Patricia, and we hope to catch you in the next one. So bye bye.
Bye bye.